Hello and welcome to the show in Cyclone 96. We often talk about hunger, food insecurity, and diversity and things like that. But there are only a very handful of individuals in this world, and also a very limited number of NGOs, non-profit organizations in our community here in Ottawa, Canada, who came across a step forward and did something in a very interesting way, and they made it happen in reality. So before we forget, we have to say that we have a very special guest today with us, and his name is Avijit Poddar, and he is the CEO and the founder director of a beautiful organization which is a rising one and very popular, well known, and they're doing a fantastic job so far in our community, and it's called Nutrition Blocks. So, without any further delay, let's welcome Abhijit and hear a bit more about these beautiful organizations. Hello, Abhijit. How are you?
Hey, Abhijit. How are you?
Pleased to meet you.
Pleased
Thanks
to meet
for
you
being
as
here.
well. Thank you.
Is everything fine today?
Everything's great. The weather's
Excellent.
amazing.
Yes,
Yes.
fantastic. We are lucky, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So, let's start this way. Can you please tell us and our audiences, like, what exactly inspired you to be a part of this beautiful organization? And actually, you are the founder member who came up with this beautiful idea,
Right.
and how everything took place and how amazingly you're doing. I know that. So our audience might need to know a bit more from you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for this opportunity and, giving me an opportunity to speak to your audience and talk about nutrition blocks. How it started is completely by accident.
Okay.
I came to Canada, immigrated to Canada about 7.5 years ago with my family. Have worked in the nonprofit sector for almost 18 years by that time. Now it's 25 years. And when I came here, I wanted to work with children, and I realized there's not a lot of organizations that are focused on the needs of children and youth. And, when I came in, it took me a little while to find my first job. And I said, you know what, while I am looking for jobs, why don't I explore starting my own organization? Never wanted to be or never aspired to be a businessman or an entrepreneur. Didn't probably know what entrepreneurship really meant. But anyways, I went through, spoke to a few people, went through a couple of workshops, and kind of gave me the confidence that maybe this is something I want to do to help the children. So we registered Nutrition Blocks as a federal nonprofit organization in 2018. So about 7 years ago. It took us a couple of years to actually start operation, and this is our 5th year of operation.
Congratulations.
Thank you. To mitigate those challenges is thinking outside the box. As I said, we have been I think I would call Nutrition Blocks as the innovator in this field. And what we've looked at is understanding the reality that the money through grants is finite. And so we need to kind of look outside the granting. And we call ourselves a social enterprise, right? So if our program cost is, let's say, $6 a meal, rather than saying having one source like the government or a grant to give us $6, we are saying, could we find 3 partners that could each give us $2? And then the ask or the dependency on each individual stakeholder is less, and your programs kind of tend to be a little bit more sustainable than somebody who says 100% of our programs are dependent on this grant from the city or grant from the province. And what happens is the governments change, or, things happen, and the grant that you depended on year after year all of a sudden isn't available anymore, right? And there's nothing worse than, having a few hundred or few thousand people dependent on those programs, and all of a sudden you have to go and tell them, sorry, we're discontinuing that program. So That's innovation, social enterprising is something we have deployed or we use in terms of mitigating some of those funding challenges in the city.
Nice. I learned a lot. So my next question, I have a lot of questions. So we know, and our audiences they know about your nutrition blog. So my next question would be, do you guys have any sort of specific marketing tools and models which you use to survive in this industry?
Yes. This is our fifth year of operation.
Right.
We started in the middle of COVID 2021. The first 2 years, 21 and 22, pretty much all our programs were COVID response. A lot of organizations, as I said, smaller organizations that did not have that infrastructure to provide a meal program. But there was a lot of money from the federal government, from the provincial government, that was provided in the in the community sector, because there was a lot of families that were isolated and didn't have access to food.
Right.
So a lot of organizations did have the money, but they didn't have a way to, uh, deploy that money and provide meals. So we started during COVID. So the first 2 years, a lot of our programs or all our programs were COVID response. But the vaccines came in, and then at the end of 2022, all the COVID related funding evaporated. And then we started 2023, and that's when we pivoted. Because our goal was always working with children. And so in 2023, we started focusing on organizations that were working with children and youth, including the city of Ottawa runs a number of programs, after school programs in their community centers. So we started approaching these organizations. Now, because of COVID, we had worked with a lot of the organizations,
Right.
so they knew our work, they knew the quality of the meals and the dependability and the nutrient content. So they were happy. We kind of built that trust and credibility. And since 2023, we are now more focused on children's programming. We have discontinued a lot of our programs that we did in the past for seniors or people facing homelessness or families living in transitional housing or subsidized housing, because as I said, there are 200 agencies that are doing the work. So we've kind of pivoted back to our original goal of working with children.
So now my next question is about social media. We all know about it.
Yeah.
So social media, does it help you and your business, well, your entrepreneurship, and or does it hurt you? Because the way it works, as far as I know, that application and the utilization of social media may not be appropriate and necessary for each and every models of institutions, right? So
Right.
can you please share something about
Yeah, sure. So as I said, we work in the community space. All our meals are provided at no cost to our beneficiaries. We don't have a product or a service to sell
Okay.
to the general population. You heard the term B2B and B2C, right? A business to customer and a business to business. So in that context, we are more of a B2B. Our clients are those organizations, the community organizations. It's the city of Ottawa, because all three of our programs we collaborate with the city. Some of our programs, like the school lunch program, the city is 100% beneficiary on that. Our dinner program, the city is about a 50% beneficiary of our program. So these are programs run through the city at the community centers, right? So as I said, for us, our clients that we want to showcase our work are our funders, are other community organizations that may want to know about our work and may want to work with us in future. But also a lot of individual donors, corporate donors. So yes, even though we do not have a product to sell to the general population, we always want to make sure that our work is amplified, our impact is amplified and shared with the community. People that whether it's individuals or families or foundations or funders, corporate CSRs, we always want to be out there to highlight or showcase our work. A lot of the corporates or foundations have grants. So when we apply to those grants, we don't want them to think, who's this nutrition box? I've never heard of them before, right? So we always want to make sure we did that. Now, again, we are a perfect example for bootstrapping organization. Started with almost nothing, very little resources. Kind of were innovative in how we raised funds. What that did was we didn't really have a lot of money to go out there and do a lot of social media, or even our website it's a run of the mill average website. There's a lot of work needs to be done. We are doing it now. Now that we are growing, we understand it's important to share our work with people, share our work with the stakeholders that are going to pay our bills. So yeah, we are. I think about a year now that we have started to have more frequent and consistent messaging on our social media. We do have LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram that we highlight our work. Again, could we do better? Yeah, we could. But as I said, we are a growing organization, and as and when we have more funding available, because right now 90% of the funds that we raise go into feeding the kids. We operate our entire organization at around 10% overhead cost, which again in itself is, I believe, is an achievement, because most organizations will run on 25 to 30% overhead cost. Of course, the bigger, larger organizations offer a lot many programs, hire a lot of people. So it is imperative for them to, but in our case, as we grow, we will have more dedicated funding to brand us better, to create those marketing tools. So we are reaching a larger number of audience out there, spread our name and spread our impact, and hopefully that will generate more donations and revenues to nutrition blogs.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
So if I ask you, in the next 5 years, or let's say 10 years from now, where do you see yourself and your great efforts and the initiatives are heading to?
Yeah. So as I said, our North Star is, our vision rather, is eradicating food insecurity for all school-age children in Ottawa. Mind you, I said all children, not just the food insecure, because every child deserves a good meal, a nourishing meal. And, my own son, who's 14 now, he gets up and just goes to school, skips his breakfast. So just because, we don't struggle with food insecurity doesn't mean our kids are eating healthy.
True.
He wants his fries, he wants his, whatever. Everyone loves, chips and sodas, and, so every child deserves, and I think that's also the solution, is when you create a school meal program where every child has access to those meals, and fortunate families like ours who can pay into the system will pay into the system, and hopefully that will generate enough revenue to pay for the children who are not as fortunate and cannot pay for those meals. So we are able to offer or continue offering those programs at no cost or a very, very little cost to these families. So that's our North Star. That's our vision for the next 5 to 10 years. We want to make sure that all, we have, I think, close to 400 schools in Ottawa. Between the 4 boards, we have 150,000 children. So our goal in the next 5 to 10 years is, can we have a universally accessible school lunch program in every school in Ottawa? That being said, as I said, Canada is very new, the new kid on the block when it comes to a national school program.
Right.
And some of the work we're doing in Ottawa perhaps could be a roadmap or could be a benchmark to some of the smaller towns or larger towns or cities. And yeah, we're always open to the idea of maybe helping other communities,
Right.
whether it's outside Ottawa, whether it is other parts of Ontario or another province. We're more than happy to share some of the success stories or some of the innovative tools we've used to grow our program. So that's our vision.
Right. So, do you have any specific models, or let's say any upgraded models, or any sort of innovative models to make it better and better in the next couple of years?
Yeah, absolutely. So I spoke about innovation.
Right.
I spoke about social
Right.
enterprising. Just looking at those two, and if you look at the community sector in general, there's a heavy reliance on government funding or grants, right? And I believe in a lot of cases that restricts these organizations to their respective communities or the number of families they serve year on year. It's still, the same number. So, that's I. I'm losing my train of thought a little bit. Could you just bring us back to your original question?
My question was, like, do you have any specific
Models, yes,
or any
exactly.
sort of innovative models
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, coming
to
back.
sustain in the long run?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, as I said, a lot of the traditional agencies or agencies that are existing rely on that traditional model of the government providing grants or the city providing grants and then them delivering the program. And as I said, that model works or worked in the past. Uh, but with food insecurity on the rise, rising food prices, I know for a fact that a lot of these organizations are feeling the pressure, are struggling with raising more funds. And I believe our model of not being heavily reliant on one source of revenue, diversification. Currently about 50% of our revenue comes through these grants or funding agreements with the city. The other 50% are cost sharing agreements with a number of smaller nonprofit organizations. And I feel that is a model that is, we found success in the last 5 years. Another model is a pay what you can. And I talked about, 1 in 4 children being food insecure. That is a problem. But the solution is also, hey, the 3 and 4 are not food insecure. That means, they do not need that support. But as I said, every child deserves a good, nutritious meal. So if we can create a program in the school or after school where every child has access to those programs and families who are in a position to pay to those programs are paying into it, and we are generating that revenue that kind of takes the pressure off relying on government funding all the time. So I feel that is a model that will work. It definitely has made our program more resilient, more financially sustainable, and operationally scalable. Year on year, we are almost doubling in size in the last 3 years in terms of the number of programs, number of meals, a number of children we serve, or number of communities we serve, right? And again, all this is with very limited reliance on the traditional grant.
Right. That's fantastic. Now we're gonna talk about something about the year 2020. We all know what happened. A very unfortunate year for all of us around the world, not just here in Canada. So my question is, during COVID 2020, how you guys handle the situation so smoothly? I'm sure you guys handled smoothly, I guess. How did you do, and what did you learn from there? So down the road, we don't expect, we don't want it. If you get into that kind of situation, how do you handle that?
Right. Very interesting because when COVID hit, uh, second week of March in 2020,
Right.
I remember it was Friday the 13th, right? Was the last day where everything was open. And that weekend, the city decided, or actually the whole country decided they were going to just shut down.
Right.
So come Monday morning, every single organization, all the food banks, all the community organizations, everything just shut down, right? And now we have tens of thousands of families in the city that were reliant on those services, didn't know what to do, right? It was just a big unknown. As crazy as it sounds, we actually started operations in the middle of COVID. You know, along with Nutrition Blocks, I was part of another organization that I helped build and co-found. Was an organization called Food for Thought.
Okay.
Pre-COVID, we were running a weekly community cafe in the Caldwell neighborhood. So we, opened the cafe for about 3 hours. Anyways, long story short, that organization, we realized when everything shut down during COVID, there were families that were isolated, there were seniors that were isolated, a lot of families living in motels with no kitchens, and they couldn't access any of these community food programs. We said, can we do something about that? And within a couple of days, the following weekend, actually, we created a meal program as a pilot. We produced about a couple hundred meals, and we served them to one of the motel sites. And the response was amazing. And we realized, okay, this is something that needs to be developed. We went to the city, we went to the Ottawa Community Foundation. At that time, very early in the COVID days, there was some funding available to help organizations to provide immediate, it was called rapid response.
Rapid response.
Right? So there was some rapid response funds available. We did some, I was invited to on a radio show. And then, that was, I believe, 1st of April. And within a week, we raised about $10,000 because people heard me on the radio. So anyways, that's where we started. We were working out of a kitchen in downtown. And, what started as 200 meals over a weekend soon developed where we were delivering about 1,000 to 1,200 meals every single day. Now, this was through Food for Thought. And then the role Nutrition Blocks played was Food for Thought became our production arm, and Nutrition Blocks started working with different communities, understanding their needs, and we started developing programs. And then we said, okay, you have the grant money, but you don't know how to prepare a meal or you don't have a kitchen. Give us the money and we will design and deliver the program to the communities that you're serving. And we will do it at a lower cost than if you did it on your own. Reason being is we were also getting grants at Food for Thought.
Right.
So again, that model kind of worked. And that is the model Nutrition Blocks started developing, where we said, we're going to go out there, we're going to talk to as many community organizations focused on smaller, less resourced organization, and let's kind of build capacity. Because these are the organizations, they were in smaller communities where there was a lot of people that were isolated, seniors, people with disabilities, immigrant families. And so that needed a rapid response. And we were able to kind of, within a week say, sure, we'll start delivering these programs. So that's the model. That was a learning, is identifying those gaps in the system, recognizing the opportunities, right? And that is why I feel like, in spite of having 200 plus organizations in this sector, Nutrition Blocks was able to come in and create a model rather than creating a program or duplicating a program that already exists, we said, why not create programs that address gaps in our current system? And that is what we did. And that's what I believe has been a success for nutrition blocks. So, all of those were as a result of COVID. As I said, it's as crazy as it sounds, most businesses were either closing down because the government had them closed down. And then unfortunately later on, it was,
Right.
they couldn't keep up with the rent and whatnot. We took the bold step of starting an organization in the middle of COVID.
Right. So basically, you guys realized what's the exact need, and you started to provide the solution, which is
That's
fantastic in a very innovative and approachable way,
That's
which is great. So now, if I ask you, let's say if somebody wants to be involved within your organization, doesn't matter with any intention. It could be to donate some money to your organization to sustain, or let's say it could be being a volunteer somewhere. I mean, anywhere from Ottawa, Canada, or even from Montreal. They can do from distance, right? Or from Toronto, or even from abroad. How they can do it? How they can reach out to you?
Right.
Perfectly.
Right. So, there's a lot of food banks around, right, in Ottawa, and a lot of them will encourage food donations.
Right.
We are not a food bank.
Right.
And so a lot of times I will get a call from individuals or I will get a call from, different community organizations, and they will say, hey, we're doing a food drive. Can I drop a box of food for you? Right. Now, that becomes a challenge for us because, we serve about 450 kids every day.
Right.
So sometimes if I get, a box of food, we don't know where that box came from, where we don't know how the food was handled. So we always refrain from taking food donations because, we want to make sure that the meals that we're serving are safe.
Yeah.
Right. But what we always encourage is, if people want to support individual children, we say, if you donate $25 a week, that supports a child's meal for the entire week. That's about $100 a month. You can make sure that child receives a hot meal every single day, right? So yes, if as I said, Ottawa is a very generous town. We have a lot of people that donate very, very regularly, whether it is $20, $25 from their paycheck, or having a $50 donation on their credit card every month. So yeah, if there are individuals out there that want to look at our program, because as I said, 90% of the money that we receive goes into feeding the child. And so if you want to see that larger impact of the money that you're donating, you can go to our website, nutritionblocks.org, and I'm sure you're going to show it on the screen later on. And there is a donate button.
Excellent.
Right? And you can donate $10, you can donate $20, you can donate $500 or $1,000. Right? It's up to you. As I said, $25 a week sponsors a child for a week. $100 funds that child's meal for a month.
Fantastic.
So if your viewers want to support the children and youth that are struggling with food insecurity, and if they like the work that we're doing, please go to our website and you can donate. And all the donations will get a tax.
That's exactly my question.
So any donations that you make, you will see. And when you go to the website, you'll see you can donate using your credit card. You can donate using GPay or Google Pay or Apple Pay or your PayPal. But for philanthropists that are donating at a higher level, they can also donate using stocks or security. So there are instructions. You can mail a check, or as I said, you can donate. We have some donors that will donate stocks.
That's fantastic. That's a very new thing I heard.
Yeah. So all that information is on our website. When you click on the donate button, we have a fund set up with the Ottawa Community Foundation.
Right.
It's one of the largest philanthropic organization in Ottawa. And so all the donations and the tax receipts are handled by the Ottawa Community
I
Foundation.
see. Fantastic, fantastic. So, what about if I talk about the newcomers? You know, when somebody comes to this beautiful country, Canada, so they are kind of lost, or they are kind of resourceless, or they have a shorter resources. So, do you guys have any sort of plans and programs for that kind of newcomers to Canada?
Yes, yes. So, I mean, you're looking at one. As I said, as a newcomer to Canada, not new as now, but yeah, I mean, we came about 7.5 years ago. I mean, we were fortunate; we were not struggling with food, but yeah, it did take us about 8 or 9 months to find our first meaningful jobs. What that meant was working with survival jobs, and depleting personal funds. So I can relate to some of the struggles of the newcomers. As I said, I was pretty fortunate that I didn't have to go to a food bank or rely on food support. But as a newcomer in a new country, you're always kind of like, wanting to make sure that you're not spending all the money that you come with. Um, and I can resonate with that. So at a personal level, I am a mentor with a number of settlement organizations that work with newcomers. And, every month I go and make a presentation, talk to the newcomers about my journey, both a journey as a newcomer, but also as a social entrepreneur. Because a lot of newcomers are not thinking of entrepreneurship. They get frustrated because they can't find a job, but they don't realize that a lot of newcomers, most newcomers are extremely talented, right? And so I never wanted to be a business person or an entrepreneur, and I became one because, as I was looking for a job and I attended a few workshops. So I share that story with newcomers. When it comes to our programs, I would say 80 to 90% of the families that we work with or we provide us meals to are newcomer families.
Nice.
A lot of them are, refugee claimants fleeing war. A lot of them, came here and they don't have. They come here with one bag, right? So they don't have. They're living in traditional housing or shelters. A lot of them don't speak the language, don't have formal education. So there's a lot of barriers for those families. And as I said, the kids are the one that suffer the most. Yeah. Right. So I would say about 80 to 90% of the beneficiaries of our programs are a lot of these newcomers. Unfortunately, a lot of them tend to be racialized, minority. Kids from racialized minority communities, right? So we do work, and that's why we make sure that all our meals are culturally relevant.
Right.
So that's the organizational piece, the programs we run. We make sure that are focused on the multicultural nature and the newcomers in our communities at the personal level, talking to newcomers, but also a lot of times, some of these newcomers will say, "Hey, I want to start a social enterprise, or I want to start a food business. Can you help me?" And I always, make sure I make time for that. One of the programs that we are looking at right now is a lot of newcomers, a lot of international students, that come to Canada or come to Ottawa. I was not aware that a lot of them, because they take loans back home, and pretty much all the money goes into paying the fees and housing, which again is a shortage, so housing is expensive. That leaves them with very little money for food, and a lot of these kids are now going to a food bank, now going to a soup kitchen on a regular basis, or they're like getting a loaf of bread and eating with the jam or butter, and so they're not getting sufficient nutrition.
Right.
So, we are seeing that uptrend in a lot of international students that are struggling with food insecurity, and that's kind of like impacting their overall health,
Right.
but also mental health. And there's a lot of anxiety. They feel kind of like, hey, I've spent all this money, my family spent all this money, and now I don't know if this is going to work out for me. So we are looking at, in the fall, we're working with a couple of universities to see if we can create a low cost or even a no cost meal program for international students.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I ask you, as a leader, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, everything all in one, in your beautiful journey so far, what did you learn? What did you achieve in terms of leadership,
Yeah.
in terms of community serving, in terms of food?
Sure. So, as I said, I have worked in the nonprofit sector, in the community side of things, for almost 25 years now, and most of it was building community programs, whether it is for schools, colleges, universities, hospitals, community at large. So that's the kind of work I have done pretty much my entire professional life. But being an entrepreneur or being a social entrepreneur was never on the cards.
Right. Right.
And that, I never, as I said, I never ever dreamt of being a business person or someone that's running their own enterprise. So there was a lot of learning and learning from those experiences. Every time you write a grant, you think you're going to get it because you think you have a great concept. But again, 3 out of 4 times those grants are denied because it's extremely competitive, right? So every time your grant is denied in the initial phases, you're like, oh my God, is this ever going to work? Am I ever going to be able to do or achieve what I want to achieve, right? So there's a lot of that. Entrepreneurship is a very lonely journey.
Yeah, true. I agree.
And so, but what I have realized is through that journey, I think networking plays a very important role. Being in contact with your, or regular contact with your stakeholders, whether it's your funder, whether it's a community organization that you're working or developing the program with, or your food partners, or the beneficiaries, or people that are administering those programs at the community center level. Making sure that you're in constant communication with them, understanding how the programs are going, if there is any tweak needed, are children liking the food or they do need something else. So we have to kind of constantly be in touch. I think that's a key that you have to. And again, for me as a newcomer, nobody knew me in the city. I did not know anybody in the city. So it's not just saying, oh, I have this great concept. It's kind of building that credibility, right? People want to see what you're doing. And so what we have done in the past 4 or 5 years is consistently delivering on our promises, right? If we are going to make a commitment, if we say our meals are fresh, nutritious, and culturally appropriate, then every single meal needs to be fresh, nutritious, and culturally appropriate, right? And kids have to like it. Just because something you think is nutritionally good doesn't mean the kids are going to love them, right? So there's always that tweaking, or you always have to reinvent or change things. So the ability to change is important. For you to step back and say, maybe this is not working, let's do it a different way. So the flexibility to have that change, the flexibility to receive feedback from your stakeholders. If something's not working, then change it. If something is working, can you make it better? Or, and that's why we always create a pilot. When we start a new program, we build a pilot to see if it works. And if it works, then we replicate that success. Then we say, okay, it's worked in one community center. can we go and talk to 10 others to see if we can start the program? Because why reinvent the wheel? If you've seen, okay, this program works, it's impactful. Hey, can we go and talk to more organizations? So those are some of the things I would advise. If there are people who are wanting to get into this sector,
Right.
Look at the need. Don't create a program because 10 other organizations or 10 other entrepreneurs have created a program. You also always have to ask, is this program serving a purpose? Is it addressing a need?
It's all about, it's just
Right.
the economy plays a big role here, I guess, in terms of definition. It's all about demand and supply.
Yeah. Right.
Great.
And yeah, so that's what I would say has been the success or keys behind our success.
Beautiful. So, if somebody from the newer generation, the younger generation, if he or she is extremely interested and wants to start a similar project, a similar institution, with the same model type and the same philosophy and the mindset,
Yeah.
what would be the best advice and methods of treatment they should have
Right.
from you as a
Yeah.
leader?
Absolutely. And again, there are a lot of entrepreneurs. As I said, we're getting a lot of newcomers
Right.
that are entrepreneurs. There's a lot of youth in Canada that want to look at entrepreneurship. I think Ottawa used to be a government town maybe 10, 15 years ago. But certainly that's changing. You'll see a lot of tech startups and other startups, a lot of new restaurants. And as a chef, a lot of new restaurants, right? Even from an Indian perspective, when we moved here 7 years ago, there was probably like one Indian restaurant. Now I can name 15 just in a 2 kilometer radius, right? And again, it's also true that 80% of restaurants shut down in the first year because people think they have a great concept or they are a great cook. And it's the same with other businesses.
Right.
A lot of people think they have a great idea, whether it's tech or whether it is any other field. What they lack, I would say lack, but what the oversight is, they don't do enough research, right? From a social perspective, now again, I would say probably 1 in 20 or 30 entrepreneurs are thinking of social entrepreneurship. I don't think a lot of people even know about social entrepreneurship, right? But again, it's a very, very gratifying, satisfying field. I always say if you want to be an entrepreneur, whether for profit or non-profit, you have to ask yourself 3 questions. First being is why, your purpose. What problem am I solving? Why do I want to start this? Is it addressing a need? So that's your why.
Right.
Unless and until you have a strong reason, in my case, there are 200 agencies that are offering a food program. Why do I want to start a 201st? Right?
True.
There has to be a why.
Yeah.
The second is, okay, you have identified a problem. Now, what is the solution that you're offering, right? What exactly you're saying, okay, there's 200 other solutions. What is your solution? And then related to that is, how is your solution different than everything out there?
Right.
Right? And that's what I would say is 3 simple questions. What is the problem you're solving? What is your solution? And how is your solution different than what's already in there? If you have a good answer, I think you will be a successful entrepreneur, whether you are a social entrepreneur or you are, a traditional running a for-profit business.
Right. So what about the other factors which always haunted me in my mind? What about the thing called feasibility?
Yeah.
That also plays a big role.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, right? Feasibility is, as I said, once you identify, yes, there is a problem or there's a gap
Right.
in the system. Yes, my solution is something unique. And yes, it's going to make an impact because it is unique. It's going to address the need. It's going to move the needle, right? It's not about addressing an issue. Are you making the issue or people that are struggling with that issue, are you making a positive change in their lives, right? But at the end of the day, Now you have to go and convince somebody else in the for-profit business. You might have a great concept. Now, unless you're independently wealthy, you have to go to a bank.
Right.
You have to go to a couple of partners and say, hey, here's my great idea. Now give me the money to do it. So there's always going to be the feasibility of it, right?
Exactly.
For me, that feasibility was, hey, if I start a kitchen, I need to rent a space. I need to buy equipment, and that's a couple of $100,000. I need to hire staff. So even before I produce my first meal, I need $500,000, right? Which I don't have. So how can I make it happen, right? So the feasibility is, are there other organizations that have the capacity to produce a meal for you, right? And you see that whether it is Uber, people that don't have a car or don't have, a parking spot or don't know how to drive are taking Uber. They're getting one place to other, right? Same thing with Uber Eats. Like, if you don't want to eat at home, then you say, okay, I'm just going to go to my app and the meal's going to be delivered here. I don't want to go drive down to the restaurant and spend 2 hours, right? So somebody thought about, hey, there is a problem or there's a gap, and I'm going to create a solution to address that gap. That doesn't mean people are not buying cars anymore, or that doesn't mean people are not going to restaurants anymore, but they've just created a solution. Or they created a demand and now providing a solution. So it's the same thing with the social, whether it's a social enterprise or whether it's any enterprise. You have to kind of, understand, is there a demand? Is there a gap? And are you able to provide a solution?
Fantastic. Now I'm going to ask you a very fun question.
Yeah.
And guess what? That's going to be, I promise you, that's going to be my very last question. of the
Yeah.
show. So let's say you have to cook some dishes,
Yeah.
and those people who are going to eat those food, they're bunch of young kids under 15 or 16, and maybe a couple of those senior citizens. So which dish you think, if you make, will win the race?
Yeah, and this is very, very interesting, right? So you always hear kids don't eat vegetables,
Right.
Like this the cliche, like eat your carrots or eat your peas, right?
Yeah.
And kids don't want to eat the vegetables. In our communities, the communities that we serve, the priority neighborhoods, families don't even have money that they could get fresh vegetables and get fresh produce or fruits, right? And you'd be surprised. One of the things we wanted to make sure is through our meal programs, we wanted the kids or nudge a healthier eating habit, right? We want the kids to choose a healthier meal. And we always say in the food security or children programming world that you have to try, when you want to introduce a vegetable, it's a broccoli or a peas, you have to make 12 to 13 attempts before the child says, oh, I like broccoli, right? That's a lot of broccoli that's wasted. And that's what's happening in families. Families will say, hey, one, I don't have money. Why should I buy all these stuff? Because my kid's just going to throw it out and I cannot afford it. I'm just going to buy those French fries or the frozen pizza or whatever. And so we have a responsibility where we are kind of saying, okay, we're not going to put that pressure on the families. We are going to create those meals. So all our meals are made from scratch. We do not use any processed food. Even the onions and potatoes are fresh onions, fresh potatoes, peel, cut, chop. We do not use any processed food. But we also make sure we follow the Canada Food Guide. We use a lot of fruits, fresh vegetables, a lot of green leaves into our menus, lots of salad. And you'll be surprised. So to answer your question, if I take you to one of our summer program sites or any of our sites during the school year, and you have a whole range of meals, you have your entree, you have your sides, you have your salads. And if I told you kids came back for a second helping, you would think, oh, they probably go for the mashed potatoes, or maybe the extra chicken. They come back for salads.
Wow.
They come back for salads, and which was a very very surprise because you would think as an adult that salad is the last thing that the kids want to eat. So yeah, if I were to pick a dish that is gonna be, and it's the same thing with seniors or community at large, maybe it's the novelty of it is like, not a lot of these families unfortunately have the money, or like, when they use the food bank, they're not getting a lot of greens. So when they see a salad and when you kind of add the right ingredients to it, and you kind of like, have the right dressings to it, it's a very delicious thing. It's refreshing. It's colorful. And as I said, it was a surprise when I see, and it also kind of warms my heart when I see kids come back and say, hey, can I get another serving of that salad? That means we've made a change with those kids that hopefully growing up, they will continue to make those healthier choices.
Excellent. That's fantastic. We learned a lot. I'm sure our audiences, I hope our audiences also learned a lot.
Yeah, I hope so.
Enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Ami.
Thank
Yes.
you. And we'll see you again, hopefully. very soon.
Hopefully you bring me
Thank
back.
you.
Yes.
So, friends, so that's the end of our show for today. Hopefully, we'll see you again in our very next episode with another amazing guest like Ajit. And before I forget, please subscribe us and don't forget to share your comments. Thank you.